Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Baltany S4092. This watch is available from baltany.com for $149 US, which is €132. So firstly, let's look at the watch roll that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a vinyl or PU leather watch roll, which is housed inside this outer cardboard box. The sleeve has the Baltany text logo in gilt, so very aesthetically pleasing. Good attention to detail because the cardboard drawer is a snug fit inside the cardboard sleeve and therefore difficult to withdraw. So they've incorporated a fabric ribbon pull, and you can get good purchase with your index finger and thumb to withdraw the drawer, which is a snug fit. So inside the base of the drawer we have the vinyl or PU leather watch roll. Baltany text logo embossed on the front, which is good. Strap securing it, which clips onto a brass rivet, so it's well made, well stitched on the top edge and the lower edge, and inside we have a pocket which houses the watch. Now, usually Baltany watches come with a strip of vinyl or PU leather which goes in between the case back and the bracelet clasp, and that prevents the clasp from rubbing and scuffing and scratching the case back when the watch is in transit. But this piece comes on a leather strap, so they haven't included the strip, but nonetheless it's good presentation. It's an example to other low-tier Chinese brands of how to get packaging and presentation correct. For example, Baltany could have just used the less expensive default option of a cardboard watch box or a plastic watch box, but this vinyl or PU leather watch roll is more aesthetically pleasing and I like it. So with regards to the items that come with the piece, they come housed in this cardboard envelope, which again is branded with Baltany in gilt, which is very aesthetically pleasing. So one gets this owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams. The instructions are in English and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Seagull caliber ST1701 automatic. This is the warranty card that comes to the piece, and I'm pleased to report the watch is covered with a 2-year international warranty. On the reverse it's stamped with Baltany Watch Co Limited, the retailer code and also the date of purchase, and it also details the terms and conditions of the 2-year international warranty, as well as the contact email for warranty claims, support@baltany.com. Nice to see a low-tier Chinese brand actually fill in the warranty card, because often low-tier Chinese brands do not fill in the details and activate the warranty from the date of purchase. So this is something that Baltany do correct. Now, I want to give due credit to Baltany here, because often low-tier Chinese brands only cover their watches with a 12-month international warranty. To get 2 years of international warranty is excellent, and they deserve full credit for that. One also gets this Baltany branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. And lastly, one also gets this Baltany branded spring bar tool. 2 rubber caps, so one removes the cap and we have a 2-prong fork at one end and a push pin at the other end, which is useful for removing the strap if you want to fit an alternative. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 38.5mm case diameter. We have a lug-to-lug measurement of 46.5mm, a thickness of 10.8mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The genuine leather strap, which is tan-toned with tan stitching, tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the buckle and tang. Solid 316L grade stainless steel buckle and tang, as one would expect. Flawless mirror polishing to the top side, underside and flanks. No sharp edges, doesn't have sharp corners, and I like the angular profile to it and the curved undercut, so it wraps around the wrist very well. Nice heavy gauge to it, and the finishing is absolutely flawless. To put this into perspective, this is the kind of mirror polishing one expects to see on a mid-tier piece costing €500 to €5,000. It is an excellent buckle and tang execution. It's engraved with the Baltany text logo with high definition engraving, and I'm pleased to see a signed buckle and tang rather than the production cost cutting measure of a sterile buckle and tang at this price point. We have a double dome sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished leaf handset and the silver mirror polished stick indices, which are applied to the silver dial. Metallic finish to the silver dial, which has a crosshair design to it, and also the subdial has a crosshair design. The black minute ticks are sharp and crisp. The printing is high quality. I like that it's not too thick. Also, the Baltany text logo is printed with high definition font. It's very crisp and very sharp. The font isn't too thick. So quality of the printing on the dial is outstanding. Again, this is mid-tier level dial execution. To clarify, low tier is €0 to €500 price point, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000 price point. What we're looking at here with regards to the mirror polishing of the leaf handset, the sub-dial hand and also the stick indices in terms of finishing is mid-tier level dial execution, €500 to €5,000 price point finishing on the dial, the handset at the 132 low tier price point of this piece. So, silver tone to the metallic dial is very aesthetically pleasing. It's subtle, so it's not matte, it is silver and reflective, but it's not a sunburst dial, but I like the metallic sheen of the silver dial. It is shiny and reflective, but as I've detailed, the AR coating works very well. It is a shiny piece due to the stick indices, the leaf handsets which are mirror polished and the silver dial, but the AR coating does work very well. This is some of the best performing AR coating I have seen on a low tier piece at the €132 price point. One thing I like about this piece, and I want to give due credit to Baltany here because it's often something that low-tier Chinese brands get incorrect. The Rehaut is shallow, it's not deep. The benefit of that is it enhances the clarity and the legibility of the piece because with a shallow Rehaut, unlike a deep Rehaut, which is often used with the NH35A for example, the dial sits very close to the underside of the double dome sapphire crystal, as does the leaf handset and the cannon pinion. So the benefit is the dial is very close to the underside of the crystal, it's not sunk too deep away from it, and you can see just how slender the Rehaut is. This is one of the thinnest Rehauts I have seen on an automatic low-tier Chinese piece. It's a very low profile stainless steel Rehaut and it's brushed satin finish rather than mirror polish, which is good. So to clarify, with a Seiko NH35A, often the reason why low-tier Chinese brands use a deep Rehaut is because it has a tall hand stack height on the cannon pinion, and therefore the second hand, which sits on top of the cannon pinion, needs additional clearance because of the tall hand stack height. So that's why low-tier Chinese brands often use a deep Rehaut, and the dial is sunk very deep away from the underside of the sapphire crystal to give adequate clearance to the cannon pinion, the hand stack height and the second hand on top of it. But with the Seagull caliber ST1701 automatic, it's based upon its predecessor, the ST16, which has the same architecture as the Miyota 8215. So the 8215 is a lower profile caliber than the NH35A, for example, and because it shares the same architecture, the ST16 was thinner, and of course the successor to it, this movement, the ST1701 automatic, also is slender, like a Miyota 8215. So you can use a thin Rehaut. It's low profile, and it still gives adequate clearance between the underside of the double dome sapphire crystal and the cannon pinion for the minute hand. And of course the second hand doesn't sit on top of the cannon pinion in the center of the dial, it's on this sub dial, which is good because the architecture of the ST1701 automatic has a sub dial second hand, so it's appropriate. But the good thing is the sapphire crystal can sit even closer to the dial and also the handset. So clarity is good, legibility is good, and aesthetically looks good because it doesn't have a deep Rehaut. With regards to case finishing, again I want to give due credit to Baltany here because what we're looking at here, in terms of the mirror polishing to the bezel, the case and the case back, every facet of this piece is polished to flawless standards. There are no imperfections in the mirror polishing whatsoever. With low tier pieces, the first thing I look at with a mirror polished case is in between the lugs, because low tier Chinese brands often neglect the finishing in between the lugs, because in order to reduce production costs and maximise profit margin per piece, they do not mirror polish in between the lugs to the same standard as the bezel, the flanks of the case, the top of the lugs and the case back. They simply machine it with milling or alternatively just brush satin finishing it because that reduces production costs. It's more expensive to mirror polish in between the lugs to the same standard as the bezel, the flanks and the underside of the head of the piece. This piece has the same quality of mirror polishing on the internals of the lugs in between them as on the flanks, the bezel, the case back. And I want to give credit to Baltany because what we're looking at here is mid-tier level polishing to the case at the low tier price point. So mid-tier is €500 to €5,000 price point. This is a low tier piece costing only €134, but we're getting mid-tier level finishing. Bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel, flat profile to it rather than being domed, and I like the way the double dome sapphire crystal projects above the flat profile bezel. Very aesthetically pleasing, nice low dome to it. It's not a box top hat crystal, but it is 2mm dome. Mirror polishing to the top edge of the bezel is flawless, and also the edge of it is deburred and chamfered very well, so it doesn't have a sharp edge, and I think it's crisp and sharp, but not sharp to the touch. Nice curved undercut to the flanks of the case, and that deletes the sharp edge. And also I like the curved profile of the lugs because they wrap around the wrist very well. This has a compact 46.5mm lug to lug, so this is particularly suitable for collectors with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches because the curved undercut and the curved profile to the lugs wrap around the wrist. It doesn't sit on top of the wrist like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. Nice radial profile to the tips of the lugs. They're not angular and sharp points, and of course that deburrs and chamfers them very well. There's no sharp edges. The radial profile means the curves don't have any sharp points, which is good. So low profile flanks, it doesn't look tall and slab sided, and I like this line which marks the transition between the bezel and the flanks. It's just a very well profiled case, aesthetically pleasing. Does have Art Deco styling to it with a crosshair dial and also the case shape. It does look like a vintage 1960s or 1970s daily wear piece. So case polishing, bezel polishing is outstanding. Let's look at the crown in detail. Push-pull crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 50 metres, which is perfectly acceptable for a daily wear piece or a dress piece. Interestingly, it's a dodecagon crown, so dodecagon means 12-sided as opposed to hexagon crown, which is 6-sided. Unusual choice to have a dodecagon crown because usually daily wear pieces either have a coin edge crown or knurled crown, or alternatively hexagon crown if it uses an angular profile brutalist case, such as an integrated bracelet piece. But for a curved profile case, I think a coin edge crown would have looked more aesthetically pleasing. But this is subjective. Some collectors might like the unusual aspect, the unusual design element of using a dodecagon crown, because dodecagon crowns aren't as popular as knurled or coin edge. Mirror polishing to the 12 sides of the dodecagon are perfect. Nice large chamfer, which deletes the tips of the flat sides to the 12 sides. So it's correctly proportioned, and I'm pleased to see it's not sterile and unsigned as a production cost-cutting measure. They have signed it with a Baltany B to a very good standard, so high definition engraving, and the quality of the mirror polishing is excellent. So let's test the push-pull crown execution. So as it's powered by the Seagull caliber ST1701, one can manually wind it when it's closed. It's not a screw-down crown, therefore one doesn't need to unscrew it in order to manually wind the caliber ST1701. Now, in terms of how it feels, it doesn't feel as smooth as a Miyota 9015 or 9039, which are premium grade Miyota calibers. It feels very similar to manually wind as the Miyota 8000 series, such as the 8215, and that doesn't come as a surprise because, as I've detailed, the caliber ST1701 is based upon its successor, the ST16, and the architecture of the ST16 is the same as the architecture of the Miyota 8215. So the design is the same. And like the early versions of the 8215, this caliber ST1701 does not have hacking. Later versions of the 8215 did. Miyota updated it to include hacking. But the early versions didn't have hacking, and the ST16 was based upon that design, so this doesn't hack either. But in terms of manual winding, 40 clockwise turns is enough to fully wind it to its maximum 40-hour power reserve. It does feel smooth. It doesn't feel rough or gritty. One can feel the tension in the mainspring building up quickly, and it feels exactly the same as manually winding an 8215. So it's not as smooth and refined as the Miyota 9000 series, such as a 9015. That feels lighter, it feels smoother, feels more refined. You can feel the meshing of the gearing is superior. The build's quality control and tolerances are obviously finer. With an 8000 series, they're not just as good, and this ST1701 really is equal in quality to a Miyota 8215 in terms of build quality control, finishing and tolerances, and therefore the manual winding, there's no discernible difference. So pulling it out to the first click position is the time setting position. Now, as I've detailed, the main negative of this I want you to be aware of, like the early versions of the 8215, it doesn't have hacking. If you look at the subdial crosshair you look at the second hand on it, you can see it continues to sweep around even though I'm in the time setting position. Normally when you pull out the crown to the first, which is the final click position, that would hack the movements, but you can see this movement does not have hacking. When I pull out the crown to the time setting position, the subdial second hand continues to run at the characteristic 3 Hz sweep. So that's the main negative, the lack of hacking, like the early versions of the 8215 which did not hack. Then Miyota upgraded it and the 8215 now does have hacking. So I would like to see Seagull, the manufacturer of the movement, because it's not made by Baltany obviously, I'd like to see Seagull update the ST1701 to include hacking, because it is possible to update the design of it as per the 8215 which Miyota added hacking to. Feels smooth to set the time. Again, no discernible difference between the Seagull Caliber ST1701 automatic and the Miyota 8215 automatic. They feel exactly the same. Architecture of the movements is very similar. Meshing of the gearing feels very similar. Minimal backplay. When you rotate the dodecagon crown, there's an almost immediate response to the leaf minute hand. Slight backplay. Does feel nice and tight. It feels the same as Miyota 8000 series movements. And there is some slight backplay, but it is necessary to have some backplay in the meshing of the gearing, because if it didn't have that, when you push back in the crown, it would cause the minute hand to jump out of position. So it's minimal. Feels nice and tight, but just doesn't feel as smooth and refined as the Miyota 9000 series, such as the 9015. That's something to bear in mind. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that reinstates the 50 metres off hermetic seal. 50 metres and a pushable crown is acceptable for a daily wear piece or a dress piece. It doesn't need a screw down crown or 100 metres. I think it's acceptable at this price point. So, manual winding feels smooth, doesn't feel rough or gritty. And also the time setting works very well. Just the lack of hacking is the main negative to be aware of. Right, so let's look at the strap in detail. So, genuine leather strap. Nice tan tone to it. It's a thick padded strap, so it's padded and thick at the spring bar end where it needs to be reinforced because of daily wear, but it's very thick. Now it does feel stiff. When you get down to the buckle and tang end, it feels more soft and supple because it becomes thinner both in width but also in thickness as it graduates down to the buckle and tang. There are enough holes to fit from a 6 to 7.5 inch wrist, which is good. And the quality of the finishing is excellent in terms of how smooth the grained leather looks. It's genuine calf leather, and it has matching tan stitching around the perimeter, which is absolutely flawless. So it's well finished. It looks aesthetically pleasing. I like the honey tone of it, or the tan tone to it. The underside has a contrasting cream tone liner to it, which is very smooth. Feels very comfortable against the wrist to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. And as you can see, it's embossed with genuine leather. So contrasting white stitching around the perimeter of the underside liner, which is good. And I'm pleased to see the correct decision of using quick release stainless steel spring bars, because that negates the need for a spring bar tool if you want to exchange the strap for an alternative. Often with mirror polished cases like this, it's difficult to engage a spring bar and compress the thick padded leather strap in between the internals of the lugs without scuffing and scratching the mirror polishing. And of course, if you slip off the spring bar, you can scuff the mirror polishing. But by using quick release stainless steel spring bars, one doesn't need a spring bar tool, so that's good. So they've made the correct choice. Now, on the other side, it's sterile on the buckle and tang side. So I'd like to see Baltany sign it and emboss it with the Baltany Tex logo, because they've done it with genuine leather, which looks good. But I think this would look more aesthetically pleasing if they also branded it with Baltany, and rather than just having it on the buckle and tang. But this is subjective. For the majority of collectors, this isn't going to be a negative. It does feel very smooth, and I'm confident with daily wear it is going to break in and become soft and supple. But to put it into perspective, it's not as soft and supple as Cordovan shell Horween leather, and I think that it's a good quality strap, but it's clearly not top grade leather. For example, Horween shell Cordovan leather is the very best, and that does feel very soft and supple. Or to put this into perspective, to compare it to my Hirsch honey camel grain strap, which is high quality calf leather, that does feel more soft and supple. Visually it looks like it, but it's just more stiff. I think it's going to break in with daily wear, but it is a stiff strap. That's something to bear in mind. On a positive note, I do think it's going to be very robust and reliable due to the thickness around the spring bar end, which is where leather straps are prone to wear and tear with daily wear. So let's look at the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, engraved around the circumference with the specification and reference number for the piece, and the centre is signed with a Baltany text logo. High definition engraving, it's sharp and crisp, the font is nice and sharp, but the actual engraving doesn't feel rough, so it's not scratchy against the wrist. The mirror polishing is absolutely flawless. They've drilled these holes as an alternative to using slots, and I'm pleased to see a screw down case back rather than a pressed on case back, bearing in mind it's a low tier price point piece. Often low tier Chinese brands, for daily wear or dress pieces, they'll use the cost-cutting measure of a pressed-on caseback with 50 metres. A screw-down caseback provides a better hermetic seal, but also it's more aesthetically pleasing, and you can see the drilled dots look more aesthetically pleasing than milled slots. It's low profile. It's not a deep bubble back caseback. The centre section is nice and flat. The benefit is that enhances the comfort level and the feel good factor. Doesn't feel like a deep bubble back caseback, which makes the piece sit on top of the wrist like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. For example, if this were powered by the NH35A, it would be 13mm plus, and of course it would have a deep bubble back caseback in order to clear the rotor. The benefit of using the Seagull caliber ST1701, like the Miyota 8215, it's lower profile, it's thinner, and therefore it doesn't need as much clearance around the rotor. Caseback can be made lower profile. So to remind you, this piece is only 10.8 thick, and it does have a double domed sapphire crystal, which does add some thickness. So the caseback is low profile for an automatic, and it's very smooth. Quality of the finishing, again, this is a mid-tier level finished caseback, €500 to €5,000 price point, but it's a low-tier piece costing $132. Finishing to the underside to the head of the piece is fantastic. Mirror polishing is flawless. The curved profile to the lugs and the radial tips have been deburred and chamfered very well. No sharp edges to the undercuts to the flanks, and the lugs have been deburred and chamfered very well. This clearly is mid-tier finishing on a low-tier piece costing €132. It's fantastic case finishing throughout. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, as I've detailed, this strap will fit from a 6 to a 7.5-inch wrist maximum. I can just engage the end of the strap in the first fixed keeper, but it's just a fraction too short, half an inch too short to engage in the second sliding keeper, as you can see. But I'm not going to be overly critical of this, because for the majority of collectors, I appreciate this is intended at 38.5mm to fit the majority of collectors with a 6 to 7.5-inch wrist, and therefore this length of strap is adequate for a 6 to 7.5-inch wrist. It's half an inch too short for my 8-inch wrist, but if you have a 7.5-inch wrist, you can see there is one spare hole. It will suffice. Taper is correct. 20 tapering down to the buckle and tang looks correct for a 38.5. So in terms of wrist presence, it does feel good. The feel-good factor is excellent, comfort level is excellent, very well balanced piece. Proportions are good. What we're looking at is correct decision after correct decision. 38.5 is suitable for all wrist sizes for a daily wear piece, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist or a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. 38.5 is the perfect size. Now, lug-to-lug measurement is compact, it's 46.5. You'll know from my previous reviews, 48mm is the perfect sweet spot for all wrist sizes, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7-inch wrist or a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. So at 46.5, it's 1.5mm shorter than the perfect sweet spot of 48, but nonetheless, it will fit collectors with a 6 to 7-inch wrist and also collectors with a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. Nice curved profile to the undercuts to the flanks. The curved lugs wrap around the wrist very well, as you can see, minimal gap, so we don't get a large gap beneath the tips of the radial lugs, and I like it. The strap is pulled very snug to the wrist. The head of the piece wraps around the wrist very well. It's low profile, and as I've detailed, above all else, what I really like about this piece is how low profile it is. 10.8 is exceptional. Baltany deserve credit. Often low-tier Chinese brands make daily wear pieces or dress pieces like this 13mm plus, because they make the mistake of using a boxed top hat double dome sapphire crystal, which adds 2mm of thickness, and therefore the piece is 13 plus as a result, and they compound the problem by adding a deep bubble back case back to it. This doesn't have that. It has a low profile flat centre section to the case back, and therefore low profile flanks rather than slab sided flanks. It's not thick. Visually it doesn't look thick, doesn't feel thick. It's only 64 grams, and again, that's something I really like about it. With a 38.5mm head of the piece on a leather strap, I would expect this to be circa 80 grams plus. 64 is very lightweight for an automatic. 64 grams is the kind of heft or lack of heft I would expect with a quartz powered piece. Now, to clarify, Baltany do make this watch, the S4092, with 2 movement options. The Seagull Caliber ST1701, which is the automatic version that we're looking at, they also offer it with a Seagull Caliber ST1700, which is the manual wind version. So the architecture of both movements, the 1701 automatic and the 1700 manual wind, are the same. The only difference is the 1701 has a rotor, it's automatic. The 1700 is manual wind, it doesn't have an automatic, so it's slightly thinner. That's something to bear in mind. The manual wind version is slightly thinner, and I think you need to consider that, but I think this is thin enough at 10.8. But if you do want to go thinner, they do offer the same watch but slightly thinner with the ST1700, and it's the same price, $149 US, which is 132. I personally prefer the automatic just for the convenience of not having to manually wind it 40 clockwise turns daily or every other day. You can simply wear it for 8 to 12 hours per day in order to wind it automatically on wrist. So, low profile piece, feel good factor is excellent, comfort level is excellent, feels very well balanced, 64 grams. Visually, it looks very aesthetically pleasing. The mirror polished leaf hands are clearly legible against the silver metallic dial and also the stick indices. So legibility is good. And again, that's the benefit of having a shallow Rehaut. It's not deep like an NH35A. This is one of the most slender Rehauts I've seen on a low-tier Chinese piece. It's a very low-profile Rehaut. The sapphire crystal sits very close to the cannon pinion and the leaf handset. So legibility is fantastic. I like it. I like everything about it. Comfort level is good. Feel good factor is good. Feels balanced. Doesn't feel top heavy. Wraps around the wrist well. Very comfortable piece to wear. So, excellent piece in terms of feel good factor and comfort level. Right, so there's no loom, so we don't need to do a loom test. So let's discuss the movement used. So, as I've detailed, this is powered by the Seagull Caliber ST1701 automatic, which is made in China. It's been in service since 2001, so at this stage in 2025, it's a reliable, well-proven workhorse automatic. They also offer it with the ST1700, which is the manual wind version, which has the same architecture. They just delete the rotor, but it does make the piece 1mm thinner, if you'd prefer a thinner piece, but I think 10.8 is thin enough. It has 20 joules and it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. The negative of a 3 Hz sweep, subjectively, is if you look at the subdial secondhand, you can see it stutters or judders around the dial. That's a characteristic of 3 Hz movements, such as the Rehaut 8215 and also the NH35A, which you'll all be familiar with. I prefer 4 Hz sweeps with 28,800 vibrations per hour because the second hand has a smoother sweep. It doesn't stutter or judder around the dial, but I appreciate for the majority of collectors this is subjective and they don't mind a 3 Hz stutter or judder to the second hand, but it's a negative I want you to be aware of. So it has hand winding, but it doesn't hack, and as I've detailed, the reason for that is the ST1701 automatic is based upon its predecessor, the ST16. The Caliber ST16 has the same architecture as the Rehaut 8215. They're the same design. And like early versions of the 8215, which did not hack, the ST16 also did not hack. Because effectively what Seagull did was they copied the architecture of the 8215 and made it themselves. So it didn't have hacking. Rehaut later updated the 8215 to include hacking, but Seagull didn't. When they succeeded the ST16 with the ST1701, they didn't update it to have hacking. So that's the negative. When you pull out the crown to the time setting position, the second hand continues to run. It doesn't hack. So you can't set the time precisely to the second. That's something to bear in mind. So the other negatives to be aware of, it has a noisy rotor. So when wearing it on wrist and when you shake the piece, you can hear the rotor. It's loud, it's audible. So how loud is it? So to put it into perspective, it sounds noticeably louder than a Seiko NH35A and a Rehaut 9015, which have quieter rotors. It has the same noisy rotor sound as a Rehaut 8000 series, such as the 8215, which you'll all be familiar with. So when it's automatically winding on wrist, you can hear the rotor spinning around, both clockwise and anti-clockwise. That's something to bear in mind. In terms of reliability, it's excellent. The reliability is equal to the Rehaut 8215. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse calibre. Stated accuracy is plus or minus 15 seconds per day, so wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Baltany are doing a good job of regulating the Seagull calibre ST1701s they're using. They're regulating them in 5 positions to attain plus or minus 10 seconds per day. This one is running consistently at plus 10, which isn't very impressive, but however, plus 10 is within the stated accuracy of plus or minus 15. Plus 10 is when it's fully wound to its maximum 40-hour power reserve. Now, again, there's something I want you to be aware of. Subjectively, one could consider this to be a negative. The ST1701 is reliable, but it's not particularly accurate. They perform best, like all automatics, when they're fully wound to their maximum power reserve. This is a given. Automatic movements and manual wind mechanical movements always perform best when they're fully wound, when the mainspring is at its maximum power reserve. But this will run at plus or minus 10 seconds per day, for example, when it's at 40 hours. But when it's below 50% of its power reserve, for example, below 20 hours of power reserve, the accuracy will run out. It will begin to run at plus or minus 15 or even plus or minus 20 to plus or minus 30 as the power reserve depletes exponentially. So it's accurate enough when it's fully manually wound or automatically wound at 40 hours. Plus 10 is okay. But when this runs below 20 hours of power reserve and then down to 10 and then down to 0 and being exhausted, the accuracy runs out. So it's not a very accurate movement. It's similar in performance in terms of accuracy to the Rehaut 8215. Reliability is equal, build quality, quality control, materials and finishing are all equal to the 8215. Accuracy is also equal. Plus or minus 15 seconds per day is similar to an 8215. Plus 10 is okay, but it's not a very accurate movement. The things I dislike are the noisy rotor, the lack of hacking, and it's not as accurate as an NH35A, which has been well regulated, or a Rehaut 9015, which has been well regulated. So that's something to bear in mind. It's reliable, but not particularly accurate. Also noisy rotor. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So low tier piece, the price point is $149, which is €132. I'm going to declare it excellent quality and I'm going to declare the value is okay. So why do I say the value is okay and not good or excellent? The reason why I can't say this is a champagne watch for lemonade money and I can't declare it excellent quality and excellent value at €132 is the movement. In order to be excellent quality and excellent value, this would need a higher grade of movement. If this had a Rehaut 9015, yes, I would say it is a champagne watch for lemonade money, even at a higher price point of €232. But I can't say it is good or excellent value at €132. The reason why is the movement. The ST1701 is a low grade of Seagull calibre. It's equal to the 8215, which is a low grade of Rehaut calibre. The 8000 series are not premium grade like the 9000 series, 9015 and 9039 respectively. So really, to be excellent quality and excellent value, Baltany need to upgrade the movement to a better quality movement. I appreciate their options are limited because they want to sight the subdial at 6. And so, for example, they can't use an NH35A because that doesn't support, the architecture doesn't support a subdial at 6. The 9015 and 9039 also don't support that. So the ST1701 is the correct choice because of the subdial for the second hand at 6. And I understand that's the reason for using it, the layout of the subdial. But high grade of movement is required for this to be excellent quality and excellent value. It is excellent quality with regards to the AR coating and the sapphire crystal is outstanding. It's some of the best performance I've seen. Quality of the stick indices, the printing on the dial, the mirror polishing to the leaf handset is mid-tier level. Bezel finishing, case back finishing, mid-tier level. Strap is excellent. Buckle and tang finishing is mid-tier level. So the build quality, quality control, finishing are all outstanding. They are mid-tier level, €500 to €5,000. It's just let down by the movement being a low grade of Seagull calibre, equal to a low grade of Rehaut 8000 series calibre, such as the 8215. So that downgrades it from excellent value and good value down to okay. It is still an excellent watch, and I think it's excellent quality and okay value to €132. It is worth buying, but bear in mind the noisy rotor, lack of hacking, and of course the accuracy. It's not particularly accurate, but plus 10 is okay. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Baltany S4092. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.